I did basically everything wrong. I failed the exam twice. So silly me is like, okay, I'm gonna do the harder one first. Then on the test when you're flipping, you open the page and it's all like overwhelming you with all the colors.
Which highlight do I read first? Oh, let me just read the whole page now. Most stressful scavenger hunt of my career life.
And I leave only 5 minutes for my scantron. So I only bubble in like 8 questions out of 160. Time's up. They pull, like they come, they yank my materials, get like I'm dying. You know, my heart was beating so fast.
You guys say hi. It was so boring. Okay. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mithea and I'm trying to revitalize this coffee with Mithea, but with Boba now. Here's my first guest, my friend from law school, Jeni. Take it away, Jeni.
Sure. Well, hi viewers, everyone watching. Thanks for watching Mithea's channel and, you know, finding out a little bit about my story and her story as well. So my name is actually Evgenia, which is hard, but for short it's Jeni. And me and Mithea, we went to law school together at University of Windsor for the JD program. Yeah, we both graduated when, Mithea?
We graduated in 2021.
Yeah, we graduated in 2021. By the way, should we say who these
guys
are over here?
Foodie distractions.
So these are my dogs. This one here is Miss Kiki. Miss Kiki, say hi to the camera. Okay. And this one here is Mr. Sozo, who actually, he's a rescue dog from Bulgaria, and we found him on the street in Bulgaria last year, November 2022. And
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Wow.
I have a little vlog about it, but my vlogging is like nowhere near your level. My vlogging is like down here.
Okay, I have to watch that one. So he's a European doggy.
Yeah, he's a European street doggy, and he actually got snuck on an airplane. Yeah,
you snuck him on?
Yeah, he was like in the seat with us, like right in the airplane with us. Because if you're under 8 kilos, like you can get your dog on the airplane with you if the dog's under 8 kilos.
Yeah. Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah, so it's super easy, guys. If anyone's thinking about rescuing a dog from Europe, and you know, you can, if it's under 8 kilos, it's super easy. You can take it on the airplane with you.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Highly recommend.
I highly recommend. Yeah, it's a really rewarding experience.
Okay, so let's talk about why we're here today. My video on the bar exams has done really well, and we've been going through this back and forth. When I was studying for it, you were one of my supports getting through it. You had your own struggles with it, and we tried to support each other. And you didn't have as much luck the first time around, but you're here today, a lawyer. So tell me more about that and what your process was and what happened.
Sure. So as you know, we both graduated in 2021, but so after you graduate, the normal time that you will get called to the bar is after you finish your articling. So it's like 1 year after you graduate, or like 14 months after you graduate. So if you graduate in April 2021, then you would get called to the bar in June of 2022. Mm-hmm. So that's what Mithea did, because she did everything right the first time and she got everything right. And you guys we can link the video.
I'll link the video here.
Somewhere here or
how
here.
I studied for the bar exams.
Yeah, so she can show you what she did. So for me though, I did basically everything wrong. And I fell for all the like traps that are kind of like set up for licensing candidates on the way. So I got called, I failed the exam twice, so each one once. I failed the barrister once and the solicitor's once. And then I'll talk to you guys in this video about what I did wrong. And I got called 7 months later. So I got called 7 months later. I got called in January of 2023, which, you know, to be honest with you, so like my biggest nightmare back then was like failing the bar exam. Yeah. And like, even though I failed it twice, everything just turns out okay. And you know, I was able to finish my articling no problem. I was able to find a job like pretty reasonably well after articling. The first 3 months of my job, I still worked as a licensing candidate until I got called. My employer was kind enough to allow me to do that. So I'm really grateful for them for that. But just want to tell you guys, if you're out there and you're kind of like failing, don't worry, it happens to the best of us, and life goes on. It's not really a big deal. Yeah, you can get through it. I'll tell you a little more in the video about what I did wrong and how I overcame it. But first, I just want to tell our viewers that it's been now, for both of us, 1 year since we've been working as lawyers.
Yeah.
What area are you working in?
So right now I'm practicing in land use planning and municipal law, which is an area I wanted to get into since 3L. I had to jump around a bit to get there, but yeah, I'm really happy in the area. So what are you practicing in, what area?
So I'm working in the civil litigation, like kitchen sink, you can call it, I guess. It's a civil litigation boutique. So it's everything but criminal and personal injury. So all types of civil litigation, contract litigation, which used to scare me so much in law school, and now that I'm working in it, it makes a lot more sense, to be honest. LTV disputes, landlord tenant board, real estate litigation, real estate signing. I'm trying to dabble now into that a little bit. Wills and estates. Basically everything, even some small like personal injury tort type cases, but just like the ones that are not like, maybe there's some tort law involved in it, but it's not the main focus. So yeah, I'm working in all of that.
Do you like that you have exposure to different areas, or does that make you feel like you're not like a master of one thing, but like, a jack of all trades?
For sure, I do like it. It keeps me on my toes, and it's interesting because like every time I get a new assignment, then in a new area of law, like I have to learn about it, so it keeps me interested.
Sounds like you're successful in what you're doing. You have your footing in different areas, and regardless of you failing twice, still like practicing now, and you're in a good position. So can you speak more about that?
So also what I want to say about that, with having gone through what I went through with the 2 failures and basically doing everything wrong, what I'm doing now, aside from working full-time, is I'm working on a tutoring business. I've had a few clients already that I've worked with and helped with, but I'm growing my business right now, and I have a couple of things on the works, not on the works. I'm working on a website which is not ready yet, and I'm working on like some supportive materials to help students who are currently preparing for the licensing exam. If you want to reach out to me, my email is avoidlicensingpitfalls@proton.me, and we'll put it somewhere in the instructions down here. I really want to help people not to fall into these like traps that you can fall on when you're getting licensing. And one other thing that I want to say, Mithea, is like, so the bar exam is like a total of 8 topics, right? Professional responsibility, civil litigation, criminal, estates,
family.
Sorry, no, estates is the solicitor. Yeah, family, public law, and then from solicitor sides is business law, estates, and real estate. So when you work in those areas, like, I'm not working in all of them. Nobody works in all the areas in the bar exam, right?
Yeah.
But it's just a completely different perspective now that I have when I actually like experienced it, And now when I read over like my licensing materials, I'm like, okay, it makes so much more sense now when you've actually when you're actually doing it. But when you haven't done it, and when you're like, when you just graduate from law school, haven't been actually exposed in those areas of law, it's just so, it's so like highly theoretical. Yeah. And I feel like it just doesn't register for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's why I think like trying to memorize things is the wrong way to go about it. It's more so you just knowing where to look and trying to remember where things are located, versus trying to read all the materials and trying to memorize everything word for word. I wouldn't suggest that.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And it's like, it doesn't even, unless you've actually experienced it, for most people, it doesn't even register. Like, when they're saying to you, and then you go and get your certificate for estate trustee, and then the estate trustee, this and that, probate tax, and it's like, like if you haven't worked in that area,
what's
like,
a probate tax?
why does it call probate? Like, what, you know?
Yeah.
But then when you see it in front of you, okay, it's a certificate, you just send an application, then the court reviews it, then it approves you, then okay, I see what, like, when you see it in front of your eyes, it makes a lot more sense.
So what would you say were some of the things that you did incorrectly or you wouldn't advise doing in preparation for the exams?
Okay, yeah, so I have a list here of the 7 major mistakes that I've committed while preparing for the bar exam. And I'm gonna go through them with you and for your audience, and then I'm gonna just briefly go over why they were mistakes now in hindsight, and you know how not to commit them in the future. So the first mistake that I would say I made, mistake number 1, is trying to do it all alone. And you know, not really like forming a support group, kind of. And that's hard for a lot of people. Like in law school, I wasn't a person who had a lot of friends. You know, so I wasn't really popular or anything like that. I kind of just kept to myself and had like one person I talked to here, one person I talked to over there. But then with everything being online, like I even distanced myself from those people. And so I was like, okay, I don't feel comfortable, you know, like you're pretty much the only person I kind of talk to, so you're a big support for me as well. Yeah. Hard. Yeah. So what was I saying?
Don't
do it. Like trying to do it all alone. And I know for some people you don't have a choice. Like that's just. But then there's nothing really shameful about reaching out, getting a tutor. Like at the end of the day, I had to get a tutor, and that helped me a lot. But when you try to do it all alone, you know, it's way harder because there's already things that people have learned along the way and that they pass on to you. So if you have access to people that can give you tips and help you, that definitely can get you ahead. And just working alone, like how I did it, is you know, harder. And yeah, if a tutor is also a really good idea. And I would say, like, don't be ashamed if people are like, if your friends are saying like, oh look, I passed on the first try, and you know, it's like I got it, like I'm so smart, blah blah blah, like, you know, I don't need a tutor, I don't need anything. Like there's nothing shameful about needing a tutor. There's nothing shameful about, you know, people learn in different ways. I'm, for example, more of a practical person. When I do things, I remember much better than just like reading about it. So yeah, depending on what your style is, you know, try to reach out for help. There's nothing shameful in that, and can actually boost you up and really help you for the future.
We got our materials in May. It was mailed to us. It was in a giant box, and it was not even bound. It was just separate sheets.
It's only mailed if you order it mailed, though.
Oh,
you have to pay for printing. I just got the digital copy.
Oh, okay.
You have to pay for printing.
Oh yes, we did. Yeah. Okay, go talk about that. What did you do differently?
Okay, so first of all, I was like, you know what? Around that time, I was like, I've had 3 years of law school. It's been nonstop. Like every year, I feel like in law school was a different challenge, and the summer too. Like every year, like study new material, summer look for jobs, look for internships, blah blah blah.
It was like go all the time,
yeah. And then I was exhausted, and I was like, you know, most people are taking the exams like back to back, like barrister and solicitor. But I want to just like relax a bit, so I'm gonna do them one by one. So this actually ties into the second mistake that I did. So I don't know, silly me, why? So the normal order is you do barrister first and solicitor second. Right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, silly me, I asked someone like which one's harder, and she told me solicitor's harder. So silly me is like, okay, I'm gonna do the harder one first, and then I'm gonna do like the easier one second, you know?
Yeah.
And thinking that, like, you know, there weren't, because the way they, I don't know, and let me know if you got the same impression, but the way they like present the two like two parts of the exam, they say it as if they're not connected, right? Like they make it seem like they're not connected. Is that the impression that you got?
Yeah, I thought it was like standalone exams with like its own materials and information.
Exactly, and that's true to an extent. However, one big like thing that they don't mention to you is that essentially all of those 8 areas of law, except for criminal, rely on civil procedure. So whether you're like doing your estate litigation, whether you're, I don't know what else is on there, like doing real estate signings, like all of that will involve civil procedure to an extent. And since civil procedure is the biggest, like civil litigation is the biggest part of the barrister exam, which is the first exam.
Yeah.
It's essentially in a way like a backbone to the exam. So for us, like I know it was mandatory to take civil procedure in year 2. But I mean, how much do you remember from your year 2 or so on?
Yeah.
And some candidates, for example, if you're doing LLM, or if you're an NCI candidate, like a foreign trained lawyer, you don't even have to take civil procedure, right? So it's not a mandatory.
Oh, yeah.
I've talked to some people, and that's what I found out. So
they're learning it for the first time at the bar exam?
Exactly. There's people who are learning it first time for the bar exam. So it's really good to have at least that exposure of civil litigation that you get from the barrister exam, in order for you to, like, when you see those terms and those like procedures later on, it's not something new, like it already clicks, you know. Like if this is an application, you're an applicant, and then the respondent, and then the person who responds to the application is called a respondent, like, or plaintiff and defendant. Plaintiff means statement of claim, defendant means statement of defense, you know. So stuff like that, you know, it's you know, it's not so that they're not independent just because the other ones involve to a large extent civil procedure.
So you're recommending that you do barrister exams first?
Absolutely, barrister exam first.
Yeah. Okay. So what's your third advice?
So mistake number 1 was doing it alone. Mistake number 2 was doing the solicitor first and then doing them in reverse, the barrister second. So mistake number 3 is not properly binding. Okay. So you did that one right. Yeah. And you did help me a lot. Yeah. Thank you for that.
So this is the whole, like, making it double-sided, keeping separate indices from the materials, so you have two binded files, so you're not flipping back and forth in one file. Yeah. Okay, so what did you do the first time?
Okay, so what did I do the first time? And I guess this kind of connects to my attitude of, like, not taking this exam as seriously as I should have.
Right.
So I didn't really want to spend, like, extra money on it, so I asked my significant other, my boyfriend, to print it for me at work, at his work. So he printed it for me, and then I just, at home, like, I just one-sided, right? One-sided. And then at home, I just hole punched it and put it in, like, binders.
Right.
And then I didn't know how to tab at all, so I was doing, like, these weird stuff where I had, like, you know how you have a table of contents in the beginning? Yeah. So I had that cut out and, like, glued to, like, the first pages of stuff, thinking that I'll go through it. Yeah. Like,
there's no time for that.
No.
So what I learned was that this test is basically just testing your, like, speed and efficiency under a timed constraint.
Scavenger hunt. Yeah. A very not fun and intense scavenger hunt.
And that basically means your materials have to be, like, rigid and able to withhold your constant flipping. And if you're hole punching, it's gonna rip and pages are gonna be cluttered. Exactly. You want to be secure when you're going through it.
Exactly. So on that note, like, you actually really helped me, because after I failed, like, I told Mithea, you know, that I failed, and she showed me how she had bound her materials, and it was really excellent, because, like, you took the time to print them and properly bind them. Like, they looked like 5 little books, or 8 little books, I guess, in total. Yeah. And plus the indices and all that, and that's just, like, I didn't think that would make a big difference, but it makes a huge difference. Like, so neat, flipping quickly, everything tabbed with, like, the, what are those called? Like the
tabs.
Yeah, the tab stickies and everything, and that is super helpful, actually. Yeah.
And I remember, like, using just the stickies for, like, things that I noticed, like, were questions that would come up a lot, like for family law, like the whole, what was the separation, like the calculation. Like I suck at math, and I was like, I'm not gonna try to do this on the calculator. I'm just gonna tab it. This is where it's located.
The equalization payments.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that was definitely, that worked out for you, and it was a really good idea, and I saw why, you know, you should take the time to do that. In that similar note of tabbing things properly. Also, I learned that for a lot of schools or a lot of students, like I did and I think you did, we use the index from the University of Toronto that they do. But then later on, I found out, like through my tutor actually that I had for me, I found out that there's another index which is I found it a lot more useful than the Toronto one, because the Toronto one, I found it super wordy.
Right.
Like,
okay.
and the other one is more succinct.
Is that the Ontario law exam one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you purchase a practice exam from Ontario law exams, it comes with a free index.
Okay.
So I ended up using that index, and I found it way more useful than
I was gonna go with that too, but I couldn't wait that long. It was taking forever to be prepared, and UFT had it already ready.
done.
And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start with this. But yeah, I definitely noticed a difference in the wording as well. The UFT one was more thorough.
Yeah.
But also like the way your brain thinks about certain concepts and what words you would use is very different from what the UFT industry is.
Yeah.
So sometimes I would like tab it with what word I would
write it in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. And then also on that note, so basically what I noticed, like when I worked with students for tutoring, and the mistake that I made myself is a lot of times students will highlight too much. So like if you're highlighting way too much in a page or in your index or whatever, then on the test when you're flipping, you open the page and it's all like overwhelming you with all the colors. And so
and then it's like which highlight do I read first? Oh, let me just read the whole page now. And then that's spending time. Yeah. So you want like the most important information to pop out at you when you flip it to that page.
Exactly.
So that's why it's advised to like highlight sparingly and just
100%. And yeah, if you guys want me to be your tutor, that's something I'm gonna go through with you and show you, how to highlight and mark it so that you're not overwhelming yourself, and how you can easily find stuff.
Yeah. I also think on the highlighting point, like it's more advantageous if it's like something that you've been doing all throughout law school. Like if you've been using highlighters, and that's like if you're like a visual learner, and that'll help you, because it's like a transition or like a big step to adjust from not using highlighters to using highlighters, because then you have to figure out, oh, what do I highlight, what's important, and that's like an extra thing you have to learn, like a study tactic you have to learn. So it's if you're in law school now, I suggest like getting used to that habit of using highlighters to like mark up important information, so that you get in the habit now for the bar exams.
Yeah, that's definitely a good suggestion. So I had another thought, but I guess it fits in well with the next mistake that I want to talk about. So mistake number 4 is trying to rely on summaries. Let me give you a little bit of background about that. So on the bar exam actually, and I wouldn't have known this had it not been for how many times I've read over, I think each section I read 8 times, like for both of the 2 exams, and I transitioned over into a next like licensing cycle. So when they moved me over to the next licensing cycle, I just like page for page compared like the new materials with the old materials.
Did they change at all?
No, they changed so little, but they changed enough to shuffle up the pages.
That's annoying.
And they just put in like, well, if the law changes in a certain area, like they would add the new, but the core stuff remains the same unless there's like some super overwhelmingly different, change in the law that comes in during the year. I'll give you an example. For example, I'm not sure how much
you can divulge here.
How much? Yeah, I don't know, without getting in trouble. But okay, on the top in your professional responsibility, like there's a part that talks about joint retainers.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So there's a section on there regarding joint and retainers that is in one chapter. And then in a different chapter, that same paragraph is just copied and pasted into like a different chapter, because joint retainers explained in a different context.
Right.
Same with competence, like what to do if you're not competent. Like it's presented first in one chapter, and then that same paragraph is copied and pasted into another chapter.
Yeah.
I've noticed that on the solicitor exam, like those repeated paragraphs also come up many times. On the barrister exam as well, and I started even marking them like also like in my own materials. Like when it comes up, I would make a note like also on page XXX, also on page XXX. But anyway, so that's confusing because you are like your mind remembers seeing that somewhere, but you can't exactly put a finger on it. Like what chapter was it? So
and what context is it?
Exactly, what context? So keep in mind that paragraphs do repeat. Like I thought it would be, they would put each concept like one time,
right,
you know, in the exam,
yeah.
but no, they can, it could be several times repeating,
right.
and sometimes it could be in a different context, so it's a little bit different than how you saw it in a previous chapter. So on that note, I thought like a way to get around that is like by relying on summaries. And what do you think about summaries?
I used it for like concepts I had difficulty grasping, like the family law equalization payments.
Yeah.
Just having like a table in one cell explaining like in a few words what that was. But I didn't rely on the summaries to memorize, more so just to, like, I read all the materials once.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to go back into the materials to read that page again.
Yeah.
So the summary is just one page. This is what that says. It's like quick if I had a, but I don't remember like honestly looking at it during bar exams.
Yeah, right. You didn't have time.
Yeah.
So that's another mistake. Like I noticed that a lot of people were passing around like summaries, of summary tables of this, that, blah, blah, blah. And like my first instinct was, oh, that's great, you know, I'm gonna get that. And I even made like a separate binder on the bar exam with summaries and things like that.
Too. Yeah.
Didn't look at it once.
Yeah.
Didn't understand it once. Was so confusing. Like, you know, so I would say what after I made that mistake, what worked for me is when I made summaries, they were my own personal summaries. So, and I glued them, like after I had my materials all printed and bound neatly and properly.
Yeah.
So for civil litigation, like I made my own table with the timelines, like me, like not somebody else's. Because when you make your own table, the value is you making the table, not so much as like actually having that table, you know? When you, sorry, go ahead,
Yeah, because when you're making the table, it's like you're going through the process of, okay, yeah, I'm gonna put this beside this, and then you're telling your brain this is where it's located.
Exactly.
So you can go back and,
Exactly. So for civil litigation, I made my own table with all the timelines. Like for example, like motion, respondent's materials to be submitted 7 days before hearing of motion, confirmation to be submitted by 4 p.m. 2 days before the motion.
Okay, yeah. So you wrote it virtually and in person.
In person, they go through your materials. The only thing they check for is if you have previous questions, if you've printed off questions from practice exams and stuff like that. That's the only thing they don't allow you to bring. But you could technically bring your textbooks, you could technically bring your dictionaries, but don't do that. Only bring your neatly printed materials and your indices. Any notes, like stick them in there, like charts in the relevant chapters, stuff like that. Make the notes yourself. Don't rely on other people's, because you're gonna get confused. And don't look for the information in like dictionaries or textbooks or whatever.
Extra clutter on the desk.
Exactly.
In your head, it's like, oh, it could be in that book, but you don't have practice looking in that book.
100%. And the other thing is, like on the exam, they want you to answer as they wrote it. Yeah. So you know, in the language that they use. Yeah. So the correct answer will be exactly in their language. Right. And a lot of times you don't even have to understand the question. You just have to match the language.
Yeah.
You know, just don't know what you mean, what they mean. Just match the language.
Scavenger hunt. You're looking for the word that fits the description.
It's an extremely not fun scavenger.
The most stressful scavenger hunt of my career life.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so that was mistake number 4. Moving on to mistake number 5, which is not properly communicating with the LSO. So you did a good job on that.
I barely had to communicate with them.
No, but you're always checking in. Like, you know, they make you like sign up for that separate inbox, like that they communicate with you with.
Anytime you have to like submit a file, form or something, it's through there. Right? Yeah.
So the mistake that I made is like I didn't really, for some reason, I don't know, everything was so stressful. So for some reason I kind of forgot about that inbox, so I wasn't really opening it.
As the updates and
yes, as the updates. So basically what happened to me is like, and why I went over to the next licensing cycle is that, okay, just to recap guys. So June of 2021, I write solicitors only. I get my fail in August of 2021. So I'm starting articling and I'm forced to sign up to repeat the solicitor in the fall. So fall of 2021. So I write it then, that's when I do everything wrong. I also get a tutor who helped me. I pass. So now it's time to do barrister, right? Because I did them in reverse. I try to sign up for the barrister in the winter, but I'm articling during this time and all that. So that's when I made this admin mistake of not communicating with LSO properly. I pay for the exam and so on, but then I didn't check my messages properly. But like they didn't get my payment for the materials on time. The deadline was like January 21st or whatever. The materials are around $130, whatever. So I didn't think it would be a big deal. So because of that, they refused to register me for the barrister exam in the spring of 2022. So at the end of that licensing cycle. So they refuse to register me for that. So my payment was late. They're like, no, if you live in Spain, you can't write the exam. If you don't pay for the materials, you can't write the exam. No, you're gonna have to write it in summer of 2022, next licensing cycle.
Right.
That's with the people graduating after us.
Yeah.
So I was like, blah, 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 you know, upset, but nothing I can do about it. So I signed up for summer of 2022. Okay. That's when I had the worst, this is a by the way, that's when I had the worst luck ever. I was so well prepared for that exam. I'm writing the barristers now, you know.
Yeah.
At the same time though, I'm feeling like so upset and stressful, and like my self-esteem is so low because everybody is getting called to the bar around that time.
Yeah.
And I still haven't written the first exam technically. Like I still haven't written the barrister exam at that time.
But you passed the solicitor.
Yeah, so I passed so solicitor I passed on the second try.
Right.
Like everything good. But barrister, I still haven't written yet because I didn't communicate with the LSO properly. I didn't pay for my materials on time, so they didn't let me write it.
Right.
So I signed up for the June barrister exam. So this is just, I think it's just luck, whatever, just bad luck. So I'm super well prepared, you know, gone over the materials so many times, compared last licensing cycle materials with this cycle, word for word, like page for page, everything. I show up for the exam, I'm feeling super confident, everything I got, you know, printed, arranged nicely, all my tables, whatever, feeling ready, start writing it, feeling good. But then I make the silliest mistake possible in the world, which is I decide to fill out my Scantron at the end, okay? And I leave only 5 minutes for my Scantron. 5 minutes, and then, you know, at the end of the, like, I have extra time, you know.
So
but
you circled in the materials, but you didn't transfer the answers over. Yeah.
That's right. And like, it's not like I had enough time, and like I just in my head I was like, okay, I'll leave 5 minutes, I'll be okay, you know. And like I had extra time, I was checking over questions, this, that, whatever. 5 minutes like before the end of the exam, I start filling the Scantron. I'm like, oh my god, I can't fill it out as fast as I thought.
Yeah.
So I only bubble in like about 80 questions. 80 questions out of 160. Time's up. They come, they yank my materials. I'm dying, you know, my heart was beating so fast. You know, anyway, they yanked my materials. Like, we had to wear like all these masks and stuff like that back then. Like, I'm crying under the mask. You know, like, no, I wasn't crying, but I'm like, yeah, and that was a big deal. So yeah, they told me, no, sorry, it's as if you didn't write half of the exam, as if you only filled in like the first half of the exam. Yeah. So I failed. I got my fail report later on. In the part that I filled in, which is like civil litigation, I got 86%. Okay, 86%. So I'm like, okay, I know I would have passed that. I know.
If you bubbled in it.
Yeah, if I just managed my time. But anyway, they will fail you for stuff like that. You know.
Moral of the story, bubble in your answers as you go, and don't think you'll have time at the end to bubble in at all. Don't take that risk. And
if you do like a administrative mistake, like how I did, they'll still fail you for that, and they won't, you know, they won't let you. They'll make your life a lot more difficult. Mistake number 6 is, talked about it briefly, trying to rely on memory. Do you have any? I think you had something to say about that you mentioned it before.
Remind me again.
Good one.
There's just too much information to absorb in a short amount of time for like what, 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
It's an open book exam for a reason, so remember that. The answer is somewhere on your table. You just have to know where to find it and locate it and match to the wording to get the answer. So it's more so not memorizing the material, but memorizing the location, or being as familiar with where the items are located so you can find it.
Exactly. Because when you just graduate from law school, at best, out of those 8 areas that are in the exam, you will have worked what, maybe in 1 or 2 at best, right? So everything else will, to you, most likely, well, I don't know, to me, that's how it was, had no context, no connection to my real life. A lot of it I didn't understand, right? And even now, like, how many lawyers do you know who work in all those 8 areas that are on the exams and can even sit down now, like after so many years of practice, and like, you know, they would know what it is, like, you know, and pass.
I barely know any. But I do know some lawyers who still refer to the bar exam materials.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah. To figure out more information about that specific area.
Yeah, I do too. But yeah, so you have no context. It's not going in your memory. It's a lot of just dates, repeating terms, repeating complex like legalese and things like that. So if you try to understand it or rely on your memory, most likely you will trip up and you will make a mistake. So it's
or make a mistake or cut into precious time for other questions.
Yeah. So that's an exam that don't try to understand, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay if you don't understand it. It's okay if it's not sticking in your memory.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to. You're just supposed to be able to locate that information and just match and choose the matching answer. Yeah, that's it.
And like for my own peace of mind, I read all the materials at least once, just so I'm familiar with, you know, how it's worded, which headings are being used to separate the materials. I spend most of my time doing drills, like practice exams. Yeah. So getting into that headspace of flipping and using the highlighter to highlight the dates, the specific terms that I often see coming up. Yeah. So it was more of drilling and practicing that technique of being in that environment under that time conditions.
No, that's a really good idea. And I just wanted to say that not all bar exams are like this. So I have a friend who did the Alberta bar. And she said that their bar exam is like completely different. So they do, over the course of articling, they do like 10 different assignments. Like, so they'll send them like 1 assignment per month, and then they work on it in their spare time and, you know, send the answer back or whatever. Now I think for us, unfortunately, it's basically become the LSO just throws like 2,000 pages of materials at you, and then it's like, okay, go handle it. And then if you want, even if you want like practice exams and things like that, you have to pay extra to the different other providers, which is like a hassle on its own, because like you don't know which one to choose, like you don't know their level of difficulty, you know. Things like that. Like for example, exam crackers is a lot easier. Emond, I noticed their wording is like super weird and like different from the so
that's why I try to do at least one of each, so I don't get a false sense of hope that after doing bar exam crackers that, oh, like it's gonna be easy. So I dabbled in at least one of each to see where I placed in all of them, to get a better understanding of how I'm going to do.
Well, exam crackers is a nice way to get your self-esteem up.
Build it up.
So anyway, all of this to say that, you know, this isn't the only way. So apparently the Ontario bar exam was like designed after the New York bar exam with this kind of like throwing the stuff at you that you don't know what it's all about. But that's not the only way to do it. And on that note, I just want to say that, you know, you are expected not to understand it. And even to me, I think this exam is not really, like, it's not really appropriate to the level that people like that new law school graduates are. I don't think it's really helpful, because like when you study under pressure like that for things that you don't really understand, you basically like end up forgetting it as soon as you pass your test.
I just blocked out that whole time period. It was so stressful. And
so it would be better if they I haven't done the Alberta one, but something like that I think would be more useful for that level, because you can just, you know, like you can retain more when you're not just bombarded with it like that and just thrown into it. But anyway, that's a whole different topic. But I just want to say, I guess for people that might be in the same position as me and have failed I don't think like it's because you're not a good lawyer. You know, you might be like me, like you might have the need to understand things more and practice them before you can just answer them like that. Yeah, but no, after I wrote it and like I was just feeling so down because friends, don't take this personally, that's not to you. All my friends were posting like, yay, I passed, like I'm a new, like finally I just want to thank God and my family and you know the academy for that I passed on.
I really tried avoiding LinkedIn at that time. I was like, I'm just gonna try to be in my own bubble. Like I don't want to, you know.
Yeah, and everybody's showing off like, hey, I'm starting my new job and like my article. I had an article position, thank God, so I was good on that. But anyway, yeah, so that made me even, and I was like, here's me, like I got my fail, and I was like, oh. Okay,
yeah,
you guys sure that's sure it's me, like, you know, it's just so and yeah, and already like law school is so competitive, everybody's showing off all the time, everybody like competing with you, so many insecurities by people, you know, and yeah, no, I just felt awful. And then that's like in my misery, that's when I reached out to like somebody who had messaged me on LinkedIn that they're offering tutoring services. And like at that time, that was like the last type of expense that I thought I would be having. Like I didn't want to spend that money at all. I would rather like spend it on some fun or vacation or something. But you know, I talked to my parents and they're like, yeah, just go for it. And then the tutor, like he did help me on the substantive stuff, but I think the most valuable thing that he gave me, and that's what I also want to do like in my tutoring, is that basically when I was ready to give up, he's like, no, like, are you just gonna give up? No, keep going, you're gonna find it. No, keep going, of course you're gonna pass, like I know you're gonna pass. You can just somebody telling you that, just somebody telling you that. And then just when you have a tutor, like you have scheduled sessions, right? So you're motivated to show up for the session, you know, like by Thursday I'm gonna have to have this done and this done and this done, and like you're showing up, you're talking to somebody, just the advice that that person gives you, the encouragement, like even simple things like that, don't give up, you're gonna make it, you're gonna do it. That just really is like mentally just put me in another state, and just gave me my faith in myself. So I kept like working. Yeah, and like that's how I did it. So yeah, but it's really awful. I know the feeling, you know. On the bright side of that, guys, it doesn't matter at the end, everything works out. I know people that have taken like 2-3 years to pass the bar exam. They're okay and happy and working. I know people like you who did it the first time, they're okay and happy and working. I know people like me who failed one time each, we're okay and happy and working.
And at the end of the day, no one asks you in practice, like, oh, like, did you pass on the first time? It's kind of like getting your G2 or your driver's license. Like, nobody cares that you failed the first time. Like, you're driving, like, you're a practicing lawyer. Yeah. And you're working. So that's all that matters at the end.
The only thing that's kind of, I guess, could be a negative thing is that if you're like me and you get called like 1 year later, so when you like most places will publish like your year of call, right? Because like at the end of the day, when you like at the end of the case or whatever, if you're fighting with the other side over costs, and this is for civil litigation, so not for criminal. If you're fighting, or I don't know, I don't work in criminal, so if it's like that for criminal, let me know, guys. Let us know in the comments. Yeah, but at the end of the day, civil litigation, when you're fighting for costs, like the lawyers that worked on the project, whatever, on the case, on the file, they list their year of call, and it's like the earlier you were called, like the more money you can charge, right? So for that lawyer's work, so you can ask for higher costs. But I mean, I don't know, it's not that big of a deal, right? So
I guess like in the first few years it may matter, but by the time you're like, you know, well established,
to be honest, it only matters probably in the first year. Like that's it. Because once you have over a year of experience, then like everything goes up, and but it's not a huge deal. Like
what about like you applying for jobs after like passing? What was the conversations like with interviews? Like, did that come up? Did like the bar ads or your late start come up at all?
Yeah, it did come up. And you know what? Actually, like my boss, when he found out, he was like, oh my God, why didn't you tell me like even earlier? That same thing happened to me. Like he got called later, but for a different reason, like not because he failed, but for something else. And then his like first mentor or whatever got called later too. So That's all this to say. There's a lot of people out there that get called later for whatever reason. Some people need a break, some people fail, some people have like personal situations.
Yeah.
But it's like, I still think there's like stigma around that, and people are ashamed to say it. So you would only see the ones that got called like at the regular time, you know, at like the first like, yeah, the regular time. You only see them posting like, oh, I passed the bar exam, blah, 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 blah. And you get a feeling like they're the loudest voices. So you get a feeling that, okay, everyone's like that. But you know, there's a lot of people out there that are delaying it, that are not getting called, that are getting called later. And it's okay. Like once you start working in the adult world, in the working world, the significance of that is not at all as important as they make it out to seem. So.
You're a working lawyer now.
So are you.
So it's been a whole 12 months. Well, 12 months and a little bit for me since I've been called and been practicing. Let's talk about that and like, what did you learn that's been different from law school, from articling that you know you don't really hear about?
Like what would I say now, 1 year into practicing is the most important thing about being a good lawyer or about being a lawyer. So okay, just want to make qualification, guys. The first 3 months that I worked as a licensing candidate, then I got called to the bar, and then the remaining 9 months I worked like with my LSO number as a lawyer. Even when I was working as a licensing candidate, like I was doing all the background work, so not a big difference from there. But anyway, I have to make that qualification. I would say the most important thing in my job is, it's not ability to research, it's not what year you were called, it's not how well do you remember your bar materials, it's not what grades you got in what course, it's not, you know, how many awards you got or what clubs you were in. It's really how you, at least in my line of work, civil litigation, how you interact with the clients and how well you manage their expectations. Because for my type of work, like the client on the other side is a human, and as humans we all have our, you know, personalities, fears, anxieties, expectations. So the most important thing is like, you know, how I present what I'm gonna do to the client for them, how I manage their expectations. As an example, like a lot of people don't have no idea that, for example, in employment law, if you've been terminated, you have to mitigate your damages. So that means you have like a responsibility to look for work. You can't just sit around waiting to get paid your notice. So, you know, people get upset about that. You know, it's an example of what you have to explain. But definitely, I didn't get enough training from law school, neither from clinics, neither from like anything I participated in, how I would have to talk to people and just how I would have to like be down to earth to them. You know, I can't, like you can't like use legalese to your clients and you know, well, did you mitigate your damages, because in that case you won't be paid the notice that you're asked per the statutory and like, you know.
What does mitigate mean?
Exactly. So interacting with your clients, human relationship, and managing expectations, I think are the most important things right now.
I think like going off that, that's why like customer service skills is very important. If you're able to get exposure to that, whether you're working right now part-time, but now this is more elevated because it's like you have specific knowledge that you're trying to convey to them, but it's like you want to make sure that what you're saying is like valid and based on the law, but also like it's understandable to the client. So finding a balance of it not being legalese, but like informal enough that the client will understand from their perspective what the next steps are. Yeah,
and like also kind of like providing emotional support, because nobody gets a lawyer if things, for the most part, if things are going well. Like they go to get a lawyer because they have something stressful happening, you know, they have a dispute and they're seeking some kind of repercussion. So these people will be stressed out. You're gonna need to be comforting, you know, you can't be cold, you can't be like putting them to the side, you have to give them attention, respect. So
but like some clients prefer like just, I'm gonna do XYZ, here you go. Like, so you really have to assess like, what is this client like? Do they need that emotional reassurance support before providing 100%. I'm gonna do the XYZ.
You're right. There are clients that they feel like offended if you try to do that.
They're like, enough of the chit chat. Right?
So what do you think after 1 year of working is
like
the most important
similar
skill?
To what you said, it's very like people-based. Like for me, Jeni talked about the client side, but for me, it's the employer side, and who you're working with really matters. I hopped around a bit. I've practiced now in 3 different areas of law, and I've really gotten an opportunity to see like how much the people you work with matters and can make or break your experience overall. This is not just in law, but across all areas of employment. It doesn't matter if you really love an area of law, if people you work with aren't like supportive, good mentorship, there for you, especially as a new call when you're still fresh learning. You probably don't know a lot about the area you're in, so you're going to be like vulnerable and like not insecure, and you're gonna have all these like uncomfortable emotions that you might not feel comfortable sharing. But if you don't have that support and mentorship, that can really impact your learning as well. So I really think that first year out, like who you're working with really matters, and that's one of the things I look out for when I'm being interviewed. Like it's a two-way street. You're being interviewed, but you're also interviewing your employer to see whether you'll both be a good fit. So looking out for like strong mentorship, trying to see like what their trajectory was at their firm, how they got to that position, to see whether they got mentorship from a partner before, and see what their track record is to see whether, okay, will I receive the same level of mentorship and support here.
So when you said, for example, colleague relationship and superior relationship, do you mean to say that if you have like personality clashes with your principal or with your colleagues, like even if you like the field of work, even if you like everything else, like the substantive stuff about it, it's still gonna not work out, like if your personalities are clashing and are really different? I think
you at that point you have to do an assessment and see whether like, okay, like yes, their personality is a little like eccentric or like
just not matching to yours.
And is that something I'm willing to put up with, or something that I can overlook because I want to get into this area and it's something I want to pursue further down the road. It may just be a stepping point, like you get your foot in the door, get that experience, and you move on. That's life. So you really have to at that point assess whether that's a personality that you can work with for the sake of learning.
But it's something they don't really tell you about. Like when you go to interview, like nobody will tell you. Well, I'm actually like a micromanager and I'm gonna watch you every step of the way, or like I'm super hands off, so I'm not gonna pay any attention to you. So I'm just gonna throw you the work and tell you when to get it done, and then check back on it, like So,
I think that's why like asking like strategic questions during the interview is important. Like, okay, like who will I be reporting to directly? Who will I be assisting on files? Who am I going to be working with the most? To see like, okay, is it just one partner or 2 or 3? What areas do we practice in? What areas will I get exposure to as a result of that? Asking them what kind of like management style do you prefer? Turning the tables on them to try to see if your personality and your style will fit with theirs.
Oh, that's really valuable, true. Okay, well, it's a hair past the freckle. And, should we wrap it up?
Yeah, so before we close it out, I want to hear more about this tutoring business that you've started. Tell me more about it and how everyone can get more information.
Sure. So I work with students one-on-one right now through, we can call them private, like one-on-one sessions, usually on the weekends, but I'm flexible, so I can talk to you about what's suitable time for you. Preparation for both barrister exam and solicitor exam. What I do is like I'll take you through all the chapters and help you out with the demarcation techniques, disseminating information, give you the tips on binding and so on, give you like a little more context, because a lot of the things become more clear once you work in it and once you see how it plays out. I'm also working on a resource, which right now it's in a draft stage, but I want to have it done by this upcoming the end of this upcoming cycle. So I'm working on, kind of a workbook that goes like, how do I say, it goes concurrent with the chapters. Okay. So do you remember, if you were like me, when they gave you, like when they dumped 1,000 pages on you, like you would try to read
Yeah.
But there's no, like, at the end of the chapter, there's no like recap. There's no like question set specific to that chapter. Look, you can do a practice exam, but that's after you read the 1,000 pages, right? Which like from page 1 to page, I don't know, like 300, you already forgot what was, you know. So I'm working on something which is like a set of questions after each chapter. So you read chapter 1, then you do your set of questions. You read chapter 2, then you do a set of questions. It is taking a long time because I am working on it, like also with working full time and all this stuff. But yeah, that's something I can, if you sign up before it's done, I'll provide it to you for free because it's in draft form. And other than that, you can just reach out to me and talk about to find out more information. That's it.
So I actually found that very helpful for putting together what I just read.
Yeah.
I needed something to ground me in the material. So what I did was I purchased extra exams and just used like, I think it was bar exam crackers or one of them. You're able to do the test according to the area of law. So just that set of questions. So it was a waste of an exam, like the total exam. So I was breaking it up like that. So I think it's valuable to have more resources like that where you have these questions that you can help ground you in the specific area that you just covered.
I know exactly what you mean because that's what I did. But so it would be like you buy the exam, then you read like, let's say, section of professional responsibility, and then you do the section of exam on the professional responsibility. I know that's exactly what I did, but it's still like professional responsibility is 15 chapters. Family, like civil litigation is like 20 chapters. So you still have to read all those chapters, and then finally you can, like, you know, you can then finally do, even if you do it that way, like that's how I did it too, only a section, you have a practice exam on that section. But like I found out, why isn't there something that after each chapter, it tests my knowledge of the chapter and it forces me to exactly ground it and focus on that chapter. So that's what I'm working on right now. Yeah, I hope to have it done. I feel like I wish something like that was around. I can't believe nothing like that is around. Anybody watching out there, don't take my idea. It's my original idea.
Copyright.
I'm doing what's it called? Like imaginary copyright. RTM.
This is how you know we're a bunch of lawyers.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being on the show, Boba with Mithea. And I think this is a really important discussion to have, like, and I'm so glad that you were comfortable to share. Like, I understand that it is like a vulnerable thing to share, especially in a competitive environment, like the legal profession, when people are just sharing all their successes. And it's like, okay, but I know like people, the other side exists. Like you sharing it definitely, I'm sure will resonate with a lot of people out there who are in a similar position and who may feel alone. So hopefully by you sharing your story, that everyone has the courage to continue forward and, you know, not give up after one misstep.
Thank you so much, Mithea.
Thank you for being here.
And I guess we have a goodbye from these two guys as well.
I don't know if you forgot.
Yeah, grab me. It's okay.
Our European doggy.
Bye guys. See you in the next episode.
See you in the
Thanks
next
for watching.
one.
Bye.